let's get started this morning by taking a look in our conversations on CARICOM at October the 1st. And that's not a date to be dreaded at all. That's a date actually to be celebrated, because for the very first time in our lived history, we have an opportunity as peoples of the region to move freely, to live, work, and engage in a prosperous way in the businesses of the four particular islands. What are they? We'll share with you. We have with us in studio Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong. Good morning to you, Ambassador.
Morning, Pearson.
We are on the cusp of something life-changing for the region. And I want to start to talk about that in a moment. But we also have online joining us his counterpart from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Vincent and the Grenadines Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency Allan Alexander. Good morning to you, Ambassador, as well.
Good morning, Pearson, and good morning, David. Nice to be here today on your program. Thank you.
It is so good to have you. I hope you're equally excited as we are in Barbados for what's happening.
Very excited. Very excited for October the 1st.
All right. And so, Ambassador Comissiong, let's put all of this into context. We know this date is coming. And so we've been talking about this. This is the start of a move that has been long in thought and dream for lots of the people of the Caribbean. Give us the origin and bring us to now.
This is the Bible, Pearson. This is the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas establishing the Caribbean community, including the single market and economy. And when this treaty was revised, around about 2002, our governments put in Article 45, entitled Movement of Community Nationals. And it said, member states commit themselves to the goal of free movement of their nationals in the community. So back in 2002, we established this free movement as a goal. We are now, somewhat 23 years later, realizing that goal, making it concrete. And that decision was made by the heads that in 2023, at the Heads of Government Conference, they said, we are all going to commit to realizing this goal. And they gave themselves until the 31st of March 2024. Well, we did not meet that deadline. And at the last Heads of Government Conference in Jamaica in July, the question was asked, look, we have been trying to implement this thing for the last couple of years. Who is ready to go? And 4 countries put up their hands. Belize, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, and Barbados. So we are the 4 pioneers. We said we are ready to go, and we will start on the 1st of October of this year. The free movement regime will therefore be limited just to those 4 countries. It is the nationals of those 4 countries that will have the right to move to either any one of the 4, to live indefinitely, to work without the need for a work permit. And so these 4 pioneers, we will establish the regime, and then in the months and years succeeding, the others will be free to join the regime that we have established and hopefully that we would have perfected.
We know, Ambassador Alexander, how excited Barbados and Barbadians are for this to get going. Talk to me about the feel and the temperature on the ground in St. Vincent and the Grenadines about this initiative starting October 1st.
Well, for one, Barbados have always been a very close sister island to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We have a lot of persons from St. Vincent and the Grenadines who lives in Barbados, and so there's that big family connection. There is that family connection right there with Ambassador Comissiong, who spent a number of his early years in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So St. Vincent and Barbados have always been connected. On the ground in St. Vincent, we are very much looking forward to this move. We're very much looking forward where we can, our people can get up. We can go to Barbados for vacation, for work, whatever it is, and know that we can do this freely. That as soon as we get there, come October 1st, we get an indefinite stamp in our passport, which tells us that we could enter and leave as we please, and we can work there without a work permit. and vice versa in terms of Barbadians coming to St. Vincent. So we just look at it as bringing that connection that we already had very much closer to Barbados.
In terms of readiness of your state and your states there in the OECS to begin this process, what have you been putting in place to be able to do so, to achieve this goal?
Well, we've been having a number of meetings between the four countries, just making sure that we cross all the T's, dot all the I's to to make October the 1st come and everything is interacted smoothly, as smoothly as possible. So we've been having a number of meetings with all our stakeholders on the ground here in St. Vincent, our stakeholders in Barbados, Dominica, and Belize, where we have the health department, the health ministries, the education ministries, the immigration departments, impacts. We've been doing a lot of meetings just to make sure that we're all very much prepared and ready for this to happen. So come October 1st, I know for sure that St. Vincent and Grenadines, we will be ready to invite our brothers and sisters from the four participating, for the four participating member states to come here to St. Vincent and vice versa, and everything moves as smoothly as possible.
Ambassador Comissiong, in pulling this all together, because naturally this is so revolutionary. We are accustomed to moving from one state to another with our passports, standing at immigration, receiving our stamps, you have to leave in 6 months. That kind of thing. This is now changing all of what we know, the paradigm that we have always known. Talk to me about what now steps are put in place to move away from that old way of understanding into this new way of free movement.
Well, it's really about establishing a very special relationship between the four countries.
Yes.
Because think about it, of all the countries in the world, these three countries will now become Barbados's closest and most intimate partners. No other country in the world, the citizens of no other country in the world will have the privileges that the citizens of Belize, St. Vincent, and Dominica have in relation to Barbados. And likewise, they're rolling out the red carpet for Barbadians too, So it goes in both directions. We are establishing this very close relationship. And I do not think we could have come up with better countries to start with, because as Allan has said, Barbadians and Vincentians have a long history. I would like to remind Barbadians or inform Barbadians who might not be aware, during those terrible years of slavery, when the enslaved Barbadian escaped the plantation here in Barbados, in order to preserve the freedom that he or she got, they had to get off the island because the whole of Barbados was taken over with plantations. So they had to get on a little raft, a little boat, and they had to head to the west, to our nearest neighbor. Our nearest neighbor is St. Vincent, and that's where they headed. Literally hundreds of Barbadians who had escaped the slave plantations headed for St. Vincent. So truth be told, a large segment of the black population of St. Vincent comes ancestrally from Barbadians. And then, a supreme irony, when there was a period of time when the sugar plantation system in Barbados kind of went into decline, many of the white Barbadians of the planter class made their way to St. Vincent and became to work in the St. Vincent sugar industry. So we have long-standing ties. And so many Vincentians have come to Barbados and have performed yeoman service in Barbados. We can think of people like Sir Arnott Cato, who was president of the Senate in Barbados. We can think of the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Association of Barbados, Vincentians who live here in Barbados. And as Allan said, let me put my cards on the table. I was born in St. Vincent. My father, Reverend Comissiong, served in St. Vincent. I was born there. I left at the age of 6. So, Pearson, it is all what we are doing really. We are sending a message to ourselves, to the rest of CARICOM, to the world. Look, we are not afraid of our Caribbean brothers and sisters. We understand that we are all kith and kin. We all came across on the same ship, just some were dropped off in different islands. We understand that the world we live in today demands unity. Unity. If we are to succeed in this world, we have to come together and unify whatever resources we have. So this is the beautiful enterprise that we are embarking upon on the 1st of October.
And I think we are all in agreement totally with you. We are excited for the start of this, but the question always is how and will it work? Will it work the same as happens now, where again I fly with my passport, I have an immigration officer who stamps my passport and so forth. So I want to break that down so that everyone understands the process and not assume, or first of all, let me ask, can anyone from any background move from one to the other easily?
Yeah, well, all citizens, will have the right to move. The grandparents, the working age people, the children, even the dependents, even a citizen of the 3 countries, they may have a non-national wife, or they may have non-national dependent children. They are welcomed as well. When we begin on the 1st of October, we will still require the possession of a passport. Now, we want to move beyond the passport. We want to move to people being able to move with things like a national ID card, for example.
Yes.
However, we are at the stage where, for example, Barbados, Barbados has a very advanced digital ID and so forth. That is not the case with some of the other pioneering member states. So we are going to be working towards making sure that all 4 of the member states come up to the same level in terms of national IDs, and so that in the near future, we trust that it would not be restricted to people with passports. You can probably move with a national ID. But to start, we agreed that we would start with the need for a passport. But once you're a citizen of any of those countries, you come into Barbados, you will be automatically given indefinite stay. And in Barbados, we no longer stamp passports, but you will be given a digital stamp. In other words, the immigration officer at the airport will designate that digitally that this person has indefinite stay in Barbados. That information will be sent off to all of the relevant Barbadian entities that need to have that information, and the entrant will be told, if now you have indefinite stay, but if you intend to live indefinitely and to work in Barbados, you're required to go and register at the Ministry of Labor, Social Security, and the third sector, because what we want people who intend to work or to live indefinitely to go in and register, so that we put them on track for getting their national ID. We put them on track for registering in the National Insurance Scheme and registering under the Barbados Revenue Authority, so that they then have the instruments that they need to really function properly in Barbados. And they will be given, they will be guaranteed, look, if you will be guaranteed access to primary and secondary education on the same terms as a citizen of Barbados. You will be guaranteed access to emergency and primary health care on the same terms as a citizen of Barbados. Yes.
Ambassador Alexander, on your end, similar? And what are you doing to prepare your border control people to adjust to this new regime?
So, first off, I want to say that, remember, St. Vincent and Grenadines being a part of the OECS, we have had full free movement between the OECS member states since 2011. So this is something, it's not very new to us. We have been doing it for quite some time. So our border agents and so on have a very, very clear understanding of how or what to expect, and in terms of the stamp and so on. So these things have been put in place already between us. So between Dominic and St. Vincent, it will continue as is. The only difference now would be that we added now Barbados and Belize to this. So we are very much prepared. We were very much prepared. Even in the Belize context, as you would know, a lot of our Garifuna brothers and sisters are from Belize, are residing from Belize. So we have now been able to pull that whole connection together, bring them now closer to St. Vincent and Grenadines, their motherland, where they could now come to St. Vincent and come and go as they desire. No 6 month stamp. They could reside in St. Vincent. They could work in St. Vincent. So we are very much on track and very much prepared at our border, in terms of our ministries of education and Ministry of Health, in describing the things that Ambassador Comissiong has just done. So we're ready, Pearson.
We're having our conversations on CARICOM this morning, looking at October the 1st, when we all, among the 4 member states, are able to move freely, live and work and coexist even so. And I know a number of you have questions as to how does this really work in the context of security. Ambassadors, we have Ambassador David Comissiong, Ambassador Alexander from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. How do we manage this given, crime? And the reality is that we do have people who want to slip through systems. What guardrails are there to protect citizens of that kind of situation?
Well, we have a very strong intelligence infrastructure in place. But first of all, we need to state that the Caribbean Court of Justice has decreed that there are two overarching principles that run through all of the freedom of movement regimes of CARICOM. And they're these. One, that a CARICOM member state always has the right to refuse entry to any CARICOM national if that person is deemed to be a national security threat. That is, if they have some kind of criminal background that really marks them off as a threat. And secondly, they have a right to refuse an entrant if that person is likely to become a charge on the public purse. That is, likely to become a welfare case. So the idea is that we want the free movement, but we want it in a wholesome, healthy way, where people coming in will be actually coming in to make a positive contribution to the society and not to be a detriment. So these principles will apply. Now, back in 2007, CARICOM set up an institution called CARICOM Impacts, CARICOM Implementation Agency for Crime and Security. It's headquartered in Trinidad and Tobago. Wow. It has a sub-agency in Barbados called the Joint Regional Communications Center. It's right there in Wilde. And Impacts has the duty to collect all the intelligence surrounding security, people who have criminal backgrounds. And one of the services that Impacts and the Joint Regional Communication Center offers the CARICOM governments is the Advanced Passenger Information System. So before a plane load of passengers or a boat load of passengers enters Barbadian territory, our immigration and law enforcement agencies are provided with information by Impacts as to whether anybody on that plane, has a criminal background, criminal record that they should be scrutinizing. So we want to assure Barbadians that system is in place to provide for the security of our people. And we already have the 6-month automatic stay. So for many years now, all CARICOM citizens, with the exception of Haitians who still require visas, have been granted a 6-month stay, an automatic six-month stay. But we have been managing that. We have been managing this issue of criminals moving through those regional security arrangements. So the point I'm making is nothing new to us.
Right.
It has been in place for some considerable time now, and we are satisfied that we have it covered. The other thing is this: Bajans should be aware. You know, we talk about fear of criminals. You know the CARICOM country with the lowest crime rate is Dominica. It's Dominica. So just to bear that in mind, that these countries, I would say Belize probably has a similar crime rate to Barbados. Dominica has by far the lowest within the region. St. Vincent is probably a little bit higher than Barbados. I know they're working on that. But suffice to say that there's no really serious crime problem among these four CARICOM member states.
Ambassador Alexander, oftentimes the conversation among the people is the concern about the drain on the social services. You bring people in and they're not contributing to, but they're using our services. Is that a similar conversation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? And what are some of the, if so, what are some of the responses that are being given?
Well, yes, initially it would be one of the concerns of persons, because I think when people hear the subject of full free movement, people are expecting that plane loads and boat loads of people will be just moving and occupying, at once and so on. And we have had the experience with the OECS where it's not like that. I mean, people move due to necessity, more than likely. And we have not seen that major movement. Well, there are movements, not in a way that has caused any great strain on our social services, and we don't expect that will happen. But we are putting things in place to ensure that that's being monitored. The registration program process that Ambassador Comissiong spoke about, that helps us in terms of our future planning. So when people come and they intend to stay and work, then they register, and we have an idea of how many persons yearly have come to or have left the country. So it helps us to plan better for the social services. But we don't expect it, using our experience in OECS, we don't expect it to be a major issue.
Also concerned, Alexander, about you coming here to take my job. There's so few jobs available, and suddenly there's an influx of other skills coming in from the region who are perhaps better skilled in some instances, and now my job is under threat. Has that been a part of the conversation as well as we prepare for October the 1st?
That definitely has been a part of the conversation, and it's obviously it's a human instinct that you would have that concern. But I see that, I mean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for instance, we are still very much emerging in a lot of areas. We are doing a lot of developmental projects currently to push our country forward. We have new hotels and so on coming on stream. We have just in the last stage of completing a brand new port. So there will be opportunities. There will be opportunities that locals could take advantage of, and there will be opportunities, I'm sure, that other highly skilled person might be able to access. So while that might be a concern, I don't see it being a major problem at this point in time. But there's something definitely will be, in the whole process will be monitored, so that we have an idea of what's going on in front of us.
Ambassador Comissiong, you mentioned the schools, because people move as families as well, and the opportunity for them to not just set route, but to have their children also comfortably accommodated within systems. How do you see that working?
Yes. Students will be accommodated in the government primary and primary and secondary school system. So you just go into the Ministry of Education. There'll be a registration process in the Ministry of Education. There's certain documents you'll be required to present, including your report from the last school that you attended in the member state that you moved from. And and based on we are getting the education authorities in the 4 countries that really share information with each other, so that they have a good sense of like the institutions in each country, so that once students come in and register, they would have enough information to be able to know which school in Barbados they should transfer them to. And if they're in doubt, then they could ask the student to sit a placement test. And based on the results of that test, they would determine which school and which grade to fit them into and so forth. So we don't anticipate many problems with that. Barbados has had a declining population, let me put it this way. Barbados has not been naturally reproducing its population since 1980. Were it not for some incoming migration over the last 40 years, our population would really be declining. The number of students in our primary school system has declined, whereas the number of teachers have not declined. So we do not anticipate, and there will be modest numbers, Pearson, to be very honest. I mean, if we look at the Barbados Accreditation Council numbers coming in from those 3 countries coming into Barbados in the CARICOM Skilled National Program, we're really talking very modest numbers. I mean, I looked at figures over the last 3 years from St. Vincent, probably a total of 89, maybe 30 per year. Dominica, 50, 16 per year. Belize, 4, one per year, right? So we're talking really fairly modest numbers that we will easily be able to accommodate in our education system and in our public health system. But just on that issue of jobs, people need to understand that an economy is not a zero-sum game, like there's one fixed set of jobs. If somebody comes and takes and gets a job in Barbados, it means that there's one less job for Bajans. An economy really does not work like that, If in fact, we do need in Barbados, we need an influx of young, economically active citizens who can work, who can produce, who can contribute to the economy. In contributing to the economy, you will also generate additional jobs in the economy, but you will make contributions to national insurance, you will make contributions to income tax, and you will help us with a big problem we have in Barbados, which is that we have an increasingly aging population, more and more pensioners, and we have less and less economically active people helping to sustain that aging population. So this will help in a little way to alleviate that problem. Of course, there are many other things we're going to have to do to solve that problem, but this is a step in the right direction.
Ambassador Alexander, because we only have a couple minutes left, what do you see to be the real, true benefits of this regime we're going into now, the free movement of people between these 4 nations?
Well, we're doing firstly what we have signed on to in the Caribbean community. Getting the islands to come together as one Caribbean, allowing each other to, be our brothers and naturally be our brothers and sisters, where we can move freely between the island without the harassment of, at the border, I could only spend 6 months, things of this nature, making it really a true Caribbean community where we can just interact, we can work, we could, we could be brothers and sisters in a really more meaningful way. So I see this being very beneficial to, firstly, for the 4 countries who have participated. As I said, Dominica and St. Vincent, we have been doing freedom of movement through OECS. So we are very much happy to bring on board Barbados and our brothers and sisters, our Garifuna brothers and sisters in Belize, on board here now as the first 4 countries to take a jump start at the full free movement of CARICOM.
So exciting times ahead. And so, Ambassador Comissiong, we have to leave it there. But I know this is a conversation to be continued because time is as it is. And so as we mature as people of the region, taking the leap of faith and taking the chance to go live elsewhere and explore the opportunities is also important. Mm-hmm. Is there one place we can go where we can get all of the answers that we need to the questions we may have?
we're going to be providing a leaflet for incoming migrants at the airport. So once they're coming to the airport, they're going to get all the information they require. And likewise, St. Vincent and Belize and Dominica will do that for Barbadian entrants. Over the next week or so, our GIS will be doing a full public information campaign. As Allan said, the governmental officials, all the stakeholders, we have been working very hard. We have been having multiple meetings among ourselves. We have the CARICOM Secretariat, CARICOM Impacts, to make sure that all of us are ready for that 1st October deadline. So our citizens should know that even if you feel that you have not heard enough from your governmental people about this impending regime, it's because a lot of work has been going on behind the scenes to get ready. But we have earmarked these remaining days for a comprehensive public education program. In fact, I think I'll be on the CBC Evening News tonight, for example, just to give one example. So we'll be doing evening news, we'll be doing the call-in programs, public service announcements. So by the 1st of October, Barbadians will be very, very well informed about the entire regime.
All right. So in other words, stay tuned for much more indeed. And we want to continue these kinds of conversations on CARICOM right here on CBC TV8. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ambassador David Comissiong, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, and the Ambassador to CARICOM from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, His Excellency Allan Alexander as well. To you, I say thank you, as we continue to sensitize Barbadians, Vincentians, Dominicans, and Belizeans to the possibilities that exist now by free movement between ourselves, and then wait for our brothers and sisters of the other brothers and sisters of CARICOM to join us so we can all experience what is really a beautiful space on earth. Thank you so much.
Morning, morning.